What if every volcano on Earth erupted at once? The morning of March 15th began like any other day in Seattle. John Parker was making coffee when his phone suddenly started ringing. The call was from his colleague at the U.S. Geological Survey.
John, something incredible is happening. Yellowstone has woken up, and it's not the only one.
In the hours that followed, it became clear that the planet was facing an unprecedented disaster. Every active volcano on Earth, from the giant in Yellowstone in Wyoming to distant Vesuvius in Italy, began erupting at the same time. In the Cascade Range, Mount Rainier blasted ash columns 20 kilometers into the sky, while on Hawaii, Kilauea turned into a lake of fire. The first signs of global catastrophe appeared within hours. The sky over the U.S. West Coast began to darken, not from clouds, but from millions of tons of volcanic ash. The government immediately grounded all flights. Major airports in the West, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, declared states of emergency. Thousands of passengers were stranded in terminals. In Los Angeles, people first thought it was unusual cloud cover, but when streetlights had to be switched on at 3 in the afternoon, panic swept the city. Ash started falling like gray snow, coating cars, homes, and roads in a thick layer. Breathing outside became almost impossible. Fine volcanic ash scratched throats and lungs. Rail traffic also stopped. Tracks were buried in ash. Roads turned into dangerous corridors with near zero visibility. Snowplows were deployed across the country, but instead of white snow, they were pushing dark, gritty dust. Authorities warned people not to sweep ash with regular brooms and not to hose it down. It would turn into a cement-like sludge that clogged every drain. Power plants began falling one after another. Ash choked turbines, and corrosive volcanic gases ate away at metal components. Solar farms in Nevada and California became useless. Panels were smothered under a thick blanket of ash. Within 24 hours, most western states were without electricity. The worst began a week later. A dense veil of ash in the atmosphere blocked up to 90% of sunlight. Temperatures across the United States dropped by around 15 degrees in a matter of days. In Florida, unusually summer-like, thermometers fell to freezing. Agriculture collapsed. On Midwestern farms, sudden freezes destroyed corn and wheat. In California, supplier of a large share of the nation's fruits and vegetables, fields turned into gray deserts within a month. Together, these regions formed the backbone of American food production. Grocery stores were emptied within a week. No new deliveries were coming. Water supply became a critical problem. Ash turned rivers and lakes into toxic gray basins. Lake Michigan, which provided water to millions, became undrinkable. Treatment plants couldn't handle the load. Plants began dying in mass. Without sunlight, trees and grasses couldn't make nutrients from air and water. Leaves yellowed and fell. Lawns and meadows dried out. Large parks and forests began to wither. Cities started to choke. Volcanic gases mixed with moisture and turned into acid rain that could burn skin. It stripped paint from cars and damaged buildings. People caught in it without protection suffered chemical burns. Animals couldn't adapt to new conditions. Birds were the first to struggle. They couldn't breathe the contaminated air. Across America, millions weakened and fell from the sky. Large animals wandered, exhausted, unable to find food. The ocean suffered too. Tiny marine organisms, the base of the entire food chain, couldn't survive without sunlight. Along parts of the California and Florida coasts, mass beachings of marine life washed ashore. The stench grew so severe that people had to abandon coastal towns. Human society began to fray. The federal government in Washington lost control as communications failed. States acted on their own. Texas closed its borders and declared martial law. California fragmented into local districts, each fighting to protect food and fuel reserves. Riots erupted in major cities. In Chicago, crowds stormed food warehouses. In Detroit, people burned cars for warmth. Police and National Guard were overwhelmed. Many left their posts to protect their own families. Millions of Americans began migrating south, hoping to find milder conditions. Highways turned into endless traffic jams of fuelless cars. Many abandoned their vehicles and set out on foot with only the essentials. The situation was especially hard for children and the elderly. Schools across the country shut down for good. There was no power for heat and no safe conditions. Kids sheltered in basements with their parents, wearing makeshift cloth masks against the ash. Hospitals overflowed with people struggling to breathe. Volcanic ash triggered waves of asthma and other respiratory illnesses. Medicines ran short, and electricity electricity was limited to backup generators that quickly ran out of fuel. The psychological toll was just as devastating. Constant darkness, cold, and fear pushed many to the edge. Severe depression spread. The lack of sunlight sharply disrupted people's mood and sleep. Many lost hope and faith in the future. After 6 months, the picture was grim. Half of the US population had died from hunger, cold, or disease. Cities were ruins, buried under a thick layer of ash. Only those who had built underground shelters with stocks of food and clean water survived. But the human spirit proved stronger than the catastrophe. In small towns, people formed survival communities. In Montana, residents built an underground network linking basements. They shared everything: food, warmth, hope. Churches became hubs of support, offering not only physical help, but spiritual strength. Scientists estimated the volcanic winter would last 3 to 5 years. The atmosphere was so loaded with ash and sulfur compounds that full recovery could take decades. Even so, ingenuity didn't stop. In underground bunkers in Colorado, researchers built subterranean greenhouses with artificial light to grow vegetables without the sun. In Utah, faith communities established settlements heated by hot geothermal springs. Technology became the key to survival. Engineers in Silicon Valley developed new kinds of batteries that could store energy for months. Medics and engineers used improvised filters of sand and charcoal for coarse water purification, then disinfected the water by boiling, UV light, or chlorination. Farmers moved into underground agriculture, growing potatoes and leafy greens under LED lighting and cultivating mushrooms that can thrive without natural sunlight. Communication turned into a lifeline. Ham radio operators across the country formed a network relaying messages between communities. Through them, people learned where food remained and shared new survival methods. These broadcasts became the only link between distant towns. The world was changed for good. Where fertile plains once stretched, barren dustlands now lay. Great lakes had become polluted basins, yet slowly, life began to adapt. New plant species emerged that could survive on weak light, and animals developed resistance to toxic gases. 2 years later, the sky slowly began to clear. Ash and the atmosphere settled. For the first time in years, true sunlight broke through the thinning haze. Survivors, accustomed to life underground, carefully stepped back onto the surface. In many fields, a small miracle happened. Where ash fell into a thin layer and was properly mixed into the soil, the ground became more fertile. The first harvest sent a signal of hope. Nature was recovering. Science showed the planet had suffered a powerful but temporary blow, much like events earlier in Earth's history. The world they saw was nothing like the one they'd known, but it was their new home, Earth, after the volcanic apocalypse.